Hey everyone, ready to explore the fascinating world of habits?
I'm ready. Should be a good one.
We're diving into The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg today, and let me tell you, this book is packed with insights that'll make you see your everyday routines in a whole new light.
It's true, those hidden forces shaping so much of what we do.
Exactly. And Duhigg doesn't just tell you about habits, he breaks them down. He starts with this really interesting story about a man named Eugene Pauly who had amnesia, severe amnesia actually, couldn't form new memories.
Yeah, Eugene's case is incredible. Really got people thinking differently about how habits work.
Because here's the thing, even though Eugene couldn't remember new things, he could still develop new habits.
It was a real head scratcher for researchers at first. Like, how can someone with almost no short-term memory learn to do something new, let alone make it a habit?
Right. You'd think memory would be essential for building habits, but Eugene proved otherwise.
His case was a game changer. It showed that habit formation isn't just about conscious decisions. It's deeply ingrained in our brains, specifically in a region called the basal ganglia.
So even with severe memory loss,
Mhm.
Eugene's basal ganglia allowed him to learn new routines. It's like this part of the brain was saying, we got this.
Exactly. And Duhigg uses Eugene's story to introduce us to the concept of the habit loop, this three-part cycle: a cue, a routine, and a reward. It's the foundation of how habits form and stick around.
So when you first learn to drive a car, it takes so much concentration remembering all the steps, navigating traffic.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I first started driving, it felt like my brain was on fire with all the things to keep track of.
So much going on. But then, as you practice, it becomes almost automatic. The traffic lights, the turns on the road, those become cues, triggering your driving routine, which leads to the reward, reaching your destination.
And the more you repeat that loop, the stronger that habit becomes. It's like carving a path through a
It's
forest.
almost like you're on autopilot.
Exactly. And that's the thing about habits. They allow us to function efficiently without constantly thinking about every little detail. But the flip side is that sometimes we're not even aware of those habits running in the background.
It's like our brains are always looking for those shortcuts, those patterns to make things easier. But where it gets really interesting, I think, is when we look at the role of cravings.
Oh, yeah, cravings are powerful. Duhigg has this whole chapter about Claude Hopkins, marketing genius from way back in the early 1900s.
I think I read about it. Wasn't he the Pepsodent toothpaste guy?
That's the one. Took Pepsodent from a nobody to a national brand practically overnight.
What was his secret? Some revolutionary formula?
Nope, not even close. It was all about creating a craving. See, Hopkins realized people craved that clean teeth feeling, that fresh, almost tingly sensation.
Okay, so he tapped into something people already wanted, but how did he connect that to Pepsodent?
He was clever. He played up the whole tooth film thing in his
Yes.
ads.
Tooth film.
Yeah, he made it sound like this gross thing coating everyone's teeth. Suddenly everyone's feeling it, right? And Pepsodent, with its special formula, was the only solution for that fresh, tingling, clean feeling.
So it wasn't about hygiene, it was about satisfying that craving. He created a need and then gave them the solution.
Exactly. Brilliant marketing when you think about it. But it gets even wilder. Duhigg connects this back to neuroscience. He talks about this study with monkeys.
Monkeys and toothpaste, what's the connection?
Not toothpaste, but close. Scientists train these monkeys, right, to expect a juice reward. Like whenever they did a specific action, they got a little sip of juice.
Sounds like my kind of experiment.
Right. But here's the kicker. When the researchers stopped giving the juice, unexpectedly, the monkeys' brains went haywire. Their brain activity showed this distinct pattern of craving, and get this, it was even stronger than when they were just anticipating the reward.
So the anticipation, or maybe even the denial, actually intensified the craving.
Exactly. It's like our brains really latch on to those anticipated rewards.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense when I think about it. Ever walk past a Cinnabon at the mall, get that whiff of cinnamon roll, and just, bam, instant craving.
It's like they're pumping that smell into the air conditioning system, right? Those heavenly smells, that's not an accident. They're deliberate cues designed to trigger that craving, make you want that sweet, gooey reward.
So they're tapping right into our habit loops.
Exactly. But here's the good news. We can use this craving mechanism to our advantage to build good habits. Duhigg talks about research from New Mexico State University. They've found that people who exercised habitually, They learn to associate their workouts with a specific feeling.
You mean like a runner's high?
Kind of, but it's more than that. It's the feeling of accomplishment, the stress relief, the energy boost. Whatever it is, it becomes linked to the workout, and it becomes a cue for craving.
So you start to crave that feeling, that reward, which makes you more likely to stick with the habit.
Precisely. And Duhigg has another great example, Febreze.
The fabric freshener. What about it?
So when Febreze first came out, it was marketed as an odor eliminator, right? Get rid of those bad smells. But sales were a total flop. Duhigg explains that people, well, we get used to the smells in our own homes, even the bad ones.
We become nose blind to our own clutter, so to speak.
Exactly. So people tried Febreze and they didn't really get it, didn't see the point. But Procter & Gamble, the makers of Febreze, they had this stroke of brilliance. They realized they needed to shift the focus
From eliminating odors to...
to creating a craving.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How do you make someone crave a product they don't even think they need? So they needed to make people crave Febreze, but how do you do that with a product people don't even think they need?
It's all about the marketing, right?
Hmm?
They added a fragrance to Febreze, a nice fragrance, and they started positioning it as this reward at the end of cleaning. It wasn't just about neutralizing bad smells anymore. It was like, okay, you've cleaned the house, now give yourself that final touch, that burst of freshness. You've earned it.
So instead of a solution to a problem, it became a sensory treat.
Precisely. They created this whole new habit loop, a cleaning cue, a Febreze routine, and that so fresh reward.
That's really something. And it shows how understanding craving, how it fits into the habit loop, can be so powerful, not just for businesses, but for us too.
Absolutely. Once you get that, you realize you can actually change your habits.
Okay, so how do we do that? We've got these habit loops, these cravings running in the background. Can we actually rewire them?
We can. Duhigg lays out a plan. He talks about Tony Dungy, the football coach.
Yeah, he turned around the Buccaneers, didn't he?
That's right. Took a losing team and made them champions. And Duhigg says Dungy understood that it wasn't just about talent, it was about habits. He worked with his players to change their automatic reactions during the game, replace them with new ones.
So he created a culture of winning habits.
Exactly. And this leads to another example Duhigg uses, Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that connection.
Yeah, obviously AA has a spiritual side, but Duhigg argues it's also a very effective habit-changing machine, as he puts it.
So how does that work, the habit part?
Well, addiction is basically a habit loop, right? AA gives you this structure, this framework for understanding that, and tools for replacing the bad habits with healthier ones.
They give you a new routine. So what's the key takeaway? How do they actually help people break those habits?
Duhigg calls it the golden rule of habit change. Keep the cue, keep the reward, but change the routine.
So you're kind of hijacking the existing habit loop.
Yeah, exactly. Keep the triggers, keep the payoffs, just swap out the behavior for a better one. He talks about these alcoholics who had surgery to block their cravings.
Block their cravings. That sounds like it should work.
You'd think so, but a lot of them still relapsed. Why? Because they never replaced the drinking routine with a different way to deal with their stress, their emotions. They still had the same cues, the same need for relief, but no new habit to fall back on.
So you can't just eliminate a bad habit. You have to replace it with a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it has to be something that satisfies that same need, that craving. So let's say you bite your nails. First, figure out your cue. Are you anxious, bored? Then what's the reward? Is it relief, distraction? Once you know that, you can experiment with replacing the nail biting with something else, something positive.
Find a healthier way to get that same reward.
Right. And Duhigg also talks about the importance of belief. You have to believe you can change the habit.
That makes sense. It's easy to get discouraged when you're trying to break a habit that's been around for a long time.
It is, and that's where having a support system can be so helpful. Duhigg talks about how important it is to find people who understand what you're going through, who can offer encouragement and support.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive, and I have to say, this book really delivers. Duhigg gives us a whole new understanding of how habits work, and most importantly, how we can take control of them. He leaves us with this thought. Once you know a habit exists, you have the responsibility to change it. So I'm curious, what habit are you going to tackle? Think about that cue, the routine, the reward. Find a new routine, believe in yourself, and go for it. Thanks for joining us with this deep dive. Catch you next time.